days before taking office, President Trump and First Lady Melania Trump launched their own cryptocurrencies. The Trump coin didn't make any promises. Instead, the president said it would celebrate everything we stand for, winning.
In my 9 years here, crypto went from revolutionary promises to pump.fun making 750 million of gambling fees and Coinbase sponsoring the US Army. Most users are degens hopping from one meta to the next, hoping to dump on the next person, but mostly getting rugged themselves. I scroll and all I see is talks of meme coins, stablecoins, and institutional adoption. Is it really all just a giant casino for exporting US dollar dominance around the world?
Yo,
Devcon's coming up. You going this year?
I wasn't planning on.
Should come, bro. There's a lot of really cool stuff coming out. This is the first Devcon where we finally have a counter abstraction, and L2s are finally here.
Yeah, so much progress.
Come on, bro. It's one more Devcon. I swear they'll actually be dApps this time.
Alright, I'll think about it.
Don't suck. Alright, come through.
No promises. I'll think about it.
Think hard, and I'll see you there.
Alright, be in touch.
Peace.
In times like this, I like to think about what got me here in the first place. It was 2008. Dad said, money will be tight, eat more potatoes. But what really pissed me off was that the banks got bailed and the managers got bonuses while the world suffered from the consequences of their actions. Did you know that the banks use money in your savings account to make money and then give you less than 10% of the profit? Watching Occupy Wall Street fail convinced me that the system cannot be changed from within. We need alternative systems, and one such system was Bitcoin. But money is not the only issue. What about all the other systems and institutions that we depend on? Then came Ethereum, a platform for decentralized applications, the world computer.
That anybody can trust, everybody can use, and nobody can turn it off or change how it works. No one controls it.
Nobody owns the Ethereum network. It's made up of thousands of computers around the world incentivized to run its code in exchange for Ether. On Ethereum, smart contracts set the rules around what can or cannot be done. Before, it was impossible to have financial assets on the internet without centralized middlemen saying, "Trust me, bro."
That you don't have to have all these intermediaries in your life to basically allow people to coordinate and work together, that you used mathematics and code to facilitate that.
I think the killer feature of blockchains and Web3 generally is this thing called composability. I think of it as just permissionless interoperability.
You're empowering your community to extend your application into infinity.
It's like if every app on your phone could freely share data and features with every other app. Cool things would be possible.
It's programmable. And so when we say, what can we do with it? It's like, well, what can you do with an iPhone? What can you do with the laptop, right? Like the sky's the limit.
You know what? Fuck it. This is all still the case. And if anyone can convince me that this revolutionary dream is still alive, it's the dreamer. Alright, that should be all.
Why are you even taking this big suitcase?
It's a crypto conference, you gotta have space for merch. Actually, fuck it, fuck merch. Dreamer didn't waste any time. He immediately started convincing me I've confused the surface of crypto, the crypto Twitter, with the actual crypto frontiers. He told me about how farmers in Kenya are using Ethereum for microloans, whole village economies bootstrapped using something called commitment pools, People of Venezuela and Argentina saving in digital dollars while their own currencies are collapsing. This continued late into the night. After 4 hours of sleep, I finally arrived at Devcon ready to meet those mythical users. The first thing I found were, unsurprisingly, stablecoins.
Stablecoins are kind of the first proof that a financial system on the internet is working on a global scale.
Here are some hyperinflated currencies in the past 10 years. In the best of these cases, you're losing 25% of your savings per year. Oh, you were saving money? It's gone.
In Argentina, we live that every day, and people are kind of desperate to find ways to avoid that. And so that's why they are so open to crypto in general, and that's why the crypto adoption in Argentina is so high. And that's why I think like the biggest driver for crypto adoption is like store of value and using stablecoins to hedge against the devaluation of the peso and the capital restrictions as well.
Right, we're seeing things like what we saw in Palestine with WikiLeaks, with Sci-Hub as well as another example, where they receive cryptocurrency as a way to get around financial blockades. And those things, that works, and we're like way past the point of like asking ourselves, is crypto useful?
Stablecoin payments are also much cheaper than traditional payment channels. While Visa, MasterCard, PayPal can charge up to 4%, stablecoins are a fraction of a cent. Big boys like JP Morgan are issuing their own stablecoins. The biggest bank in the world is adopting stablecoins along with Shopify, Stripe and PayPal, integrating them for millions of merchants. Savings from these stablecoins will be literally billions per year. In 2024, stablecoins moved more than $11 trillion around the world, which is more than Visa and MasterCard combined. Almost half of the African adults don't have access to bank accounts. Financial systems are fragmented across 54 countries with unstable currencies, and the cross-border payments are very expensive.
In Africa, for example, where from one country to another, to send money, it needs to first go through the SWIFT system to a bank in Europe and then back to Africa and lose like 30% of the value.
Dreamer then introduced me to Joseph and other people from Africa to tell me more about how they're using crypto.
What we're seeing is different layers of financial service stack, from wallet infrastructure to liquidity aggregation, both fiat and stable coins, to very user-centric wallets or applications that are basically cash apps but powered by crypto, and the end user doesn't even know they're using crypto to go on and live their lives. Some of the things we keep dreaming about here in the global Ethereum community is actually happening at scale in Africa.
Things like what Grassroots Economics is doing in Kenya, which is the what he calls commitment pooling. And so he's developed a platform on Silo for commitment pooling, where any group can create its own economic network. Community currency systems often have a problem with scaling, and Web3 can help us change that a lot. But with reputation metrics and with trust lines, so people can gauge the relative strength of other people as a participant in trading or in the local economy without us having to know them directly, right?
Kotani Pay is doing microloans. I love them. Haraka is working on microloans as well on the ground in Kenya right now. Like, they basically take trust credit of the communities and try to enable them like microloan payments based on the web of trust. Topos Network is doing something similar. They enable they were a remittance operation company, bank license with 5 countries in Africa.
In Africa, decentralization is a plan A. It's not a plan B.
You mean tokens?
Nowadays, you can see them as everything, like using them as tickets to enter co-working spaces or represent participation or accomplishment in an ecosystem as symbols of membership in a community, or even voting, eligibility, etc.
Then I talked to Drew, who
launched a project called Peach Drop, which has evolved into Peach Tycoon. The approach was essentially just tokenizing boxes of peaches that are grown on our farm.
that are redeemable for actual peaches. In our second iteration, which is a little more interesting, we actually tokenized, it's kind of this proxy farming game, and we tokenized trees. And so you basically would purchase an NFT that represented a tree, and it had 3 different states: bare root, and then blossoming, and then fruiting. In this one, we actually had a series of other NFTs that you could use, leverage to farm, kind of digitally farm your tree. Included compost, watering, pruning, all the things you would normally do as like an on-the-ground physical farmer. Normally, you'd be waiting till, say, August to actually sell and receive compensation for the work you're putting in. We received, capital up front for a product that we would be producing much later, which allowed us to reinvest and make decisions and be a little bit more comfortable in investing into the crop and or things we needed to do. And obviously, like, this kind of Peach Tycoon concept is kind of this lightweight, silly, fun way of exposing people to the potential of what this could actually do for farmers, from the perspective of fundraising, building better relationships with your end consumer, allowing consumers to have better access directly to consumer, cutting out the middleman in that capacity, both from a funding and from a distribution standpoint.
So Drew got the cash flow when he needed it, people get guaranteed peaches, and nobody needed to trust a bank. Besides peach trees, people are already tokenizing coconut farms, real estate, gold, coupons, songs, and loyalty points. Is this a token yet? But when saying real-world assets, people are mostly referring to tokenization of financial assets like stocks and bonds. Robinhood just put a bunch of stocks on chain. BlackRock plans to tokenizing more than $10 trillion worth of assets, which is roughly the GDP of China. JP Morgan is tokenizing bank deposits, and a bunch more are following. If the world's biggest financial institutions are tokenizing trillions of dollars worth of assets, maybe crypto is not a scam after all. But on the other hand, while the number of real-world asset tokens has been growing steadily, crypto people have been making more than 50,000 meme coins every day. Yield farming. Whoa, whoa, whoa. Grow, little coin, grow.
Finance is really more powerful when it aggregates into the same spot. Markets are more liquid if more people are trading them. This is why Wall Street is so powerful. The power and gravity of Wall Street just collects all the capital, it collects the liquidity, it collects the traders, and therefore becomes the epicenter of finance. But nonetheless, there are financial centers that are not Wall Street. There's the Chinese stock market, there's the Japanese stock market, and so finance is spread around all of the world in these different pockets because it has not been able to be expressed on the internet.
Not bad, not bad.
What is DeFi? Well, DeFi is just the idea that we can have a more liquid, more accessible financial system on the internet.
At Decentralized Finance, all boils down that when you remove the middleman, you increase the efficiency, and as a user, you end up getting a better deal than what you would get inside the off-chain economy.
The money in my bank account is earning me a whopping 0.02% interest rate. Like, some of the most safe yields in DeFi is like a modest 3 to 5%. It's 24/7, 365, doesn't know your holidays, doesn't know what time zones are. It just is going at all times, and anyone with an internet connection is on the same playing field as anyone else also with an internet connection around the world.
Anyone can join DeFi, start using something like Aave as a saving account, and start earning like 10 times more than in a bank account, if they even have a bank account, unlike a quarter of the global population. But then again, most DeFi projects ended up losing people's money. What the fuck happened here? But nevertheless, there's many billions of dollars locked in DeFi, and on Aave alone there's over $50 billion, which would make it the 46th biggest bank globally.
As the growth of DeFi just gets larger, there's more capital there, there's more liquidity there. DeFi is just naturally going to attract more assets. Assets want to go to where there is liquidity, and eventually there will, instead of being 7 different financial centers, there will just be one financial center. It'll be the internet.
Money being so liquid is great for fundraising.
Constitution DAO is a great example of something that was really uniquely possible with crypto. anyone with a wallet could participate in to take part in our bid to try to buy the US Constitution by donating to the effort. And if we lose, we'll refund the money. In the Web3 world, we could provide those refund guarantees inside of a smart contract. There were no overhead, no processing fees, refunds were automatic, things like that you just could not do in the Web2 world.
And even if you could do it easily, the fees alone would cost you more than $7 million. Whew.
So I'm the founder of Gitcoin, and we funded $65 million worth of good causes, from open source software to climate work, anti-pandemic work. The primary mechanism behind Gitcoin is this thing called quadratic funding. And basically it's a crowdfunding campaign that allows you to fund what matters to everyday members of the community, not just what the rich and the few want. So the way it works is that first you put out a matching pool, and second, projects that are doing good work in the community can apply to be a part of a crowdfunding campaign. And third, the money that they raise from their constituents are matched by the matching pool. And the match is based off of more off of the number of contributors to the projects, not the amount that they give. I think that crypto is going to enable better ways to route money to the things that actually matter in these ecosystems, because we can do it in a way that's more effective. It leverages that network-based intelligence that the internet can give us. A lot of these NGOs and governments that in the old world are supposed to be allocating resources to people that are in need, their administrative overhead can be over 50% of their budget. And with crypto, we can do it for less than 5 or 10%. We've automated the parts of the network that would require administrative overhead through blockchains.
Having programmable money means money can be set to automatically split between different initiatives or people. It means that revenue from a project can flow back to original supporters. But fees weren't always low. A lot of use cases simply weren't financially viable up until like 2 years ago.
And CryptoKitties was such a fun project. This silly little cat game was able to bring the Ethereum network to its knees. I was frankly shocked because this was 2017. There had been, in that year, over $1 billion raised in various ICOs with people promising to, completely change the insurance industry, the real estate industry, the way that the supply chains are managed, the way that people are paid, right? And we had a cat game with 100,000 users and the whole network was ground to a halt.
As a response to these scaling and UX issues, the community focused on building infrastructure. And since then, it's been infra.
Goodness gracious, enough with it!
What is it actually doing?
We can really make a change in the world if people start to focus on the application layer of the technology, and especially with purpose, for solving real world problems with this super powerful technology.
And now we're gonna just go out into the Devcon wilderness and look for some dApps, because we haven't seen much of them.
Hey man, what do you got in this briefcase over here?
Crypto Cash.
What's Crypto Cash?
They're the disposable Ethereum wallet. Well, basically you can load it up with ETH or USD and gift it to family and friends super easily. It works entirely via a web browser. I tap it to my phone here, and pending the conference internet, it'll load up in a moment. No app installed. Here's my balance on this card. I can gift this to somebody as is, and once they receive it, they can go ahead and withdraw the stablecoin. So I'll just go ahead and withdraw $1 to myself. Again, no app. Whenever I need to sign a transaction, I just tap it to my phone.
The most mainstream app is probably Polymarket, a prediction market which had more than $3.5 billion worth of bets during the presidential elections. It turns out when the money is on the line, people predict better than polls. So the Polymarket was all over the news, and it got a partnership with Twitter, or X now. There are also apps for newsletters, podcasts, music and art, each with built-in monetization, instant payouts and much lower take rate. And then in terms of work, there are Web3 alternatives to anything from job seeking to call scheduling to video calls and docs management. And the Web3 versions generally respect privacy and don't require registering. They're still not super easy to find, but there's definitely more of them.
Yeah, it's a start, but we're going to need something a lot more compelling for people to want to start using the stuff.
So I think until around 2008 or 9, we saw the positive side of Web 2. But I think after 2008 or 9, yeah, the platform centralization started to happen. The big platforms grew bigger and bigger, and it became harder and harder to be independent on the web.
The downside of Web 2 is that we've ended up with a relatively small number of incredibly powerful companies that control major aspects of our lives. They're basically able to extract a tax on everything that anyone tries to do.
Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Amazon, Spotify, they decide what you get to see on their platforms, and what you see is what maximizes their profit.
Then it also introduced massive dark patterns. It introduced people being hijacked into likes, like showing people things that they look at that they might not want to see but infuriates them. Making people feel senses of social inadequacy, like farming people's data. 63% of the world's population, approximately 5.13 billion people, are on social media. How many of those actually get a cent for all the content that they're producing? It's the shareholders of these large centralized organizations.
From Spotify over Amazon to Uber, Airbnb and others, Web 2 platforms generally take roughly 30%.
Why do we have this massive corporation that's sucking up, billions and billions of dollars, ripping off both sides of the equation?
The fact is power corrupts. And if we can't decentralize power structures, then we're just going to have corrupt infrastructure.
Worst of all, from social to financial, Web 2 accounts can get frozen or banned with no recourse. You don't own anything in Web 2. It gave us amazing tools but turned us into digital sharecroppers.
Unlike traditional social media, which is about building closed systems for milking data and serving ads, Web 3 is about building open ecosystems.
From like a user's perspective, like a person that is participating in the decentralized social network, they have a lot more control over their own identity. They have a lot more control over their information environment, their information diet.
You have Twitter or Facebook changes the algorithm. Every user is stuck there. If, for example, Web3 Social client changes the algorithm, you can just go use another interface to the same protocol. And you have a lot more choice without losing your data.
Both Farcaster and Lens have interfaces built by other people where they make it look like Instagram or YouTube or Reddit, or they change the algorithm or whatever they want to do with it.
Having a social graph on-chain, you're able to take your followers and content with you as you move between platform and platform.
Take Farcaster. People aren't just doom scrolling. Right there in their feed, someone might be claiming a bounty, launching a token, investing in one, or supporting their favorite artists. It's cool how these social networks can grow into actual economies. But we're definitely going to need many more users.
I think there's good ways to bootstrap them. Let me see, I know some people we can talk to.
A classic problem for platform economies is the initial bootstrapping problem. How do you get users to use it? Where traditional platform economies differ from token economies is that in a token economy, you can often bootstrap and distribute value initially to a lot of users, where the value alignment that we traditionally see, where it's primarily between investors and early founders, we now see between users, later users, and over time also the new users that are coming onto the system.
Now, instead of just VCs getting rich, early users can get rewarded for helping bootstrap the network, and in turn they are less likely to maximize profit, and this results in a better experience for the user, since the users are the ones who are owners. Now let's talk about different kinds of network economies that have been bootstrapped so far. DePIN is decentralized physical infrastructure. Think Airbnb but for anything, where you can earn some extra money by renting out hard drive space, processing power, or solar energy production. Yeah, all right, coming.
I'm really excited to see where tokens can be used for real-world production. The majority of the web runs on AWS. It's a massive monolith. So I think decentralizing those and allowing the common ownership and be common, revenue sharing or enjoying in the profits of mutually provisioned infrastructure is the way going forward.
What do you think so far?
Did you know that according to Messari, there are more than 13 million devices running DePIN networks? How do you think they decide on the rules or how the tokens are distributed?
I think a bunch of these operate as some kind of DAOs.
It is something where it allows people to contribute resources. They can be capital, they can be work and labor, and they have the ability to then decide on what they should do with those resources.
DAOs are like companies except internet native and owned by anybody who contributes.
Now the group where essentially it's an NFT project where there's one NFT that's placed for auction every day forever.
We have two organizations in Costa Rica that are almost like precursors to DAOs in a way. One of them is called the Asada, and they govern community water distribution rights. And so that means that a town doesn't have to form one, but if they choose, then you have this board who chooses who gets water. They maintain like the payment, like I said, like the distribution of it. And so we look at them and we say, it'd be really nice if the Asada knew about DAO House, right? Because there's so many coordination issues. So you show up to a meeting and there's 50 people there and it takes 2 hours to sign in because everyone has these very archaic ways to identify themselves.
Everybody was saying like DAO cannot be efficient, DAO are just a grift or whatever. And I think with Maker, we are proving the point that it's not true if it's well operated and the framework are good. And now in terms of revenue, we are currently at $150 million net profit.
Now you can start organizations for cents. There are already existing tools for setting up the governance, the legal structure, the compensation, the permissions and roles and dispute resolution and basically everything you need for building an organization.
I mean, I love DAOs, but 99% of them died and most living ones are a complete mess.
Yeah, true, but imagine if we had an unbiased middle manager that sees everything and it can grind 24/7 to make sure everyone's on the same page.
I swear if we mention AI one more time, man.
We're seeing a lot of activity trying to smash the two particles of blockchains and AI together, and many people are experimenting on that front. The idea of giving agents, AI agents, autonomy with blockchain private keys to be able to get them to transact on the internet and being able to have them as being economic agents shoulder to shoulder with humans, I think is something that is inevitable. People are building towards that.
I believe every DAO will have an agent. And that agent will broker the collective intelligence within the system, and that will help us break some of these alignment problems within DAOs. The agents will be the voice of the DAO and be able to represent the DAO's needs, wants, desires, all the on-chain information that will provide, and then people will have the necessary context to be able to join a DAO late on and know everything that's happened up to that point. And I actually think it's crypto systems, which is where the real frontier of AI will be.
People throwing money at AI agents is great, but did you know real scientists spend 80% of their time begging for money instead of curing cancer?
DeSci is a movement to decentralize science, and that means scientific funding, scientific publishing, scientific infrastructure.
Currently, to be able to call yourself a scientist, you have to have publications in journals. But the system is crazy. You have to pay to journals to review your work, and then you have to get peer reviews. And those who make peer reviews, they are not paid at all. And you transfer the ownership of your article to journals. So basically you pay to journals to publish your article, and then they will charge users for reading your article.
Yeah, I mean, you have to pay to publish, you have to pay to read, your data often gets given to the university, your IP is often shared or taken by the university. Most of the time, scientists don't really receive much of the funding, they certainly don't receive much of the ownership of their ideas.
It's already possible for a community of people who are interested in a certain domain of research to self-fund that research and then own this IP.
Vita DAO members invested millions across 7 different DAOs, researching anything from hair loss and cryogenics to neuroscience and quantum biology. They are developing 6 new drugs, with 2 already on the market. Research Hub is paying $150 per peer review. Scientists getting paid for work.
Revolutionary, I know. My favorite part is that if the patients own the intellectual property, medicine should be more affordable.
I heard someone launched DeSci.fun for DeSci meme coins and millions of dollars were lost.
Yeah, you can never escape the degens, but let's go see what's going on with the regens.
ReFi or regenerative finance is basically about embedding ecological work directly into the financial system, making it economically viable or even profitable.
Regenerative finance was one of the first following DeFi. I think it was a bunch of people who saw DeFi and the ability to, create tokens, create value, and then use that for public goods, planetary regeneration or economic sustainability, all these things that bring value to people.
I really love what EthicHub does. It's one of the few dApps in the crypto space that's been around for a long time and has proven impact. They are basically microloans for coffee farmers in Latin America, and they have a real impact on people.
So in EthicHub, you as a user can support small coffee producers in 6 countries in LATAM to access financing. You can have the low risk, low return, which is 8%, not that low.
There are projects using Ethereum to tokenize carbon credits and solar energy. There are projects for tracking and incentivizing biodiversity, waste management, ocean cleanups, and reforestation. Once you tokenize natural assets, you can start issuing loans or even stablecoins backed by natural assets. Nature-backed currencies can align economic interests with ecological interests. Good day, sir. Would you be open to being tokenized? I didn't hear a no. Can nature itself become economically autonomous through the use of AI and blockchain, where parks could collect donations and dish out bounties? Maybe. Plantoids is a sign.
I say you're right, but you're also not right.
I mean, most of crypto is probably a scam, so I don't blame people for seeing it that way. But I think it's also the news is the big blow-ups, not the steady progress of engineering design of novel technologies. It's a bit more boring.
You think crypto is worthless because you live in Europe or the States or in a country where the financial system works.
After traveling halfway around the world, I realized that despite all of the bullshit, there is real impact being made. For millions of people dealing with high inflation and broken financial systems, this technology is life-changing. From DeFi to DePIN to DAOs, what all of these have in common is that they're about building networks rather than pyramids. Whereas previously the value was being squeezed out by centralized middlemen, now the power and value are distributed in a network. Resources flow freely through open protocols rather than institutions. Smart contracts facilitate exchange, and it's all available to anyone with internet connection. Builders can compose protocols into more complex user experiences. Your identity, login, and assets work across the whole ecosystem. So here's an app that embodies this perfectly. Base is a super app. Through Base you can do almost everything that we talked about without visiting thousands of different websites. Except, as opposed to almost every other super app, almost every feature and service is owned by a different organization rather than an all-powerful megacorp. Come, let me give you a taste of the future. Alright, let's give it a go. I already have Base installed. It was super quick and easy. I didn't have to worry about the seed phrase, so it was unlike crypto apps in the past. And then inside the app you have your profile with the address based on ENS. You can mint your profile coin or your content coins using Zora. And then the DMs and the social feed is from Farcaster, as well as these mini apps which allow many cool things. So starting with, for example, Banker, with which you can manage your crypto, and yeah, you can do all kinds of crazy things. Yeah, you can use Tab to split bills with your friends. You can collect music through Coop Records or collect podcasts through Pods. And overall, through these mini apps and the social feed, you can invest, you can launch tokens, you can crowdfund your project. Yeah, I'm not gonna go through all of these apps, just wanted to give you a quick idea. So a lot of these are also available for interacting with them directly through the feed. can publish or complete bounties, play games, yeah, all kinds of things. And beside the Farcaster mini apps, you can also access most of the regular crypto apps like Aave, for example. So you can just go directly inside the base app, open the Aave dashboard and start supplying crypto and earning some yield. Yeah, you can do almost anything you can do in crypto, you can do inside the base app, which is pretty cool. I won't go into more details, but you get the idea. If Base is still not publicly available by the time you're watching this, join our Telegram group and maybe you get an invite code to the beta version.
Take the opportunity to rethink from first principles a lot of your assumptions about how things should be. Start to undo that stuff that you might be traumatized by. We can still achieve the ideals of, cypherpunk values and decentralized coordination. You have to have hope in our ability to leverage this stuff we're building. And now that all these bottlenecks that we had earlier are gone, and now that we're going into a new bull market, there's going to be way more attention and funding. And so there's no better time to be optimistic and but also determined to actually put in the work and realize that the optimism should only be in that path where we're like really giving our full selves into making our dreams a reality.
That was the last time I saw Dreamer. Together we found great things at Devcon. He helped me regain hope, at least temporarily, but there's a long road ahead.
Because, we have huge challenges around climate and resource scarcity, and, you can see wars are coming back. So it's going to be a very challenging period. I think the important thing is to create seed forms for the future. New forms of regenerative, resilient production that are, that kind of like are more safe to go through these kind of chaotic times and to be strong enough to go through this difficult time and come out of it as actually the seed of a new civilization. So I think that the new generation of young people, they have an unprecedented opportunity to re-engineer our world through crypto.
Chunks.